And this will serve as our wp-config.php that we're copying in. And so from the root here, I'm going to copy that into the WordPress directory, which we're going to be zipping up. All right, so if this is where you're wondering where all those environment variables were going, this is where we're about to get in the middle of it. So now that we're having to establish the WordPress WP config, first thing we got to do is make sure that we even support SSL at all. So you'll notice if you look on the GitHub copy of this code that I've made some modifications here. And so we're terminating SSL. And even though in a single instance configuration, technically our EC2 instance will have an elastic IP assigned, it's still important to make sure that when the site scales, that both CloudFront and elastic load balancing is supported. So, and there's many different configurations you can do to achieve this, but and so if the protocol is defined, then we'll ignore this. Okay, and then we just want to make sure that the server HTTPS is on. All right, and so you see in the sample WP config that we've got here, you get a bunch of hard-coded samples here, but that's actually, we need to be able to take these in from Elastic Beanstalk, right? So Elastic Beanstalk works in this regard by exposing a bunch of environment variables, which you've already scripted some of that in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring in all of those. All right, so these salts look very familiar, right? So this is what we went through, all the effort in automating these and getting these from the WordPress API. So now we're going to go ahead and pull those in. All right, so some of the additional defines that I find useful in here, since this is just a sample, right, is being able to have control over the WP home from the console is nice. And we're trying to make this as easy and hands-off as possible. And over the years, I've had to set these. And so I've just made it really super convenient to do so from the console. So I don't have to log into those EC2 instances being managed by Elastic Beanstalk on my behalf. And then we want to make sure to set up the WP. We're not going to worry about the WP contenter just yet, but when we move off of just a single EC2 instance to where we have multiple EC2 instances behind a load balancer for when we'll want to scale up the site, we'll have to make sure that's mounted in a place where all of those EC2 instances can reach those files, so that way we can horizontally scale, add as many servers as we need to burst to handle the additional load. It seems a little crazy to think about that here, but when you're designing these Elastic Beanstalk source bundles, it does become important, because when you try to switch it into a single instance configuration with just a couple clicks into a load balanced application, this is one area where we can actually support horizontal scaling. So what we can do is stub in that define here, and then we'll revisit it in a later section. I know you've had to look at a lot of this on Faith, and we're going to test this deployment. And so this EFS mount that I'm defining doesn't exist yet, but it will in a future section. And so what we'll do is we'll just comment that out for now and give ourselves a to-do. We'll uncomment this after EFS is deployed. That's all. Stop editing. Happy publishing, huh? That's nice. All right, so in the next section, we'll focus on building the deployable source bundle, so that way we can actually test the work that we've done here. Like in many other deployments, sometimes it's just a good idea to jump right in and see what happens, which is why I've stubbed this in, just to give us just enough to establish a new Elastic Beanstalk deployment in an easily repeatable way. especially as the number of steps continue to increase with the number of features we'll continue to add over time.